Hey, 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 you know what day it is. What day is it? It's Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. It's Tuesday Tea with D. You know, Tuesday Tea with D. Come on, Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Hey, boo, hey, it's your girl, Detra Trueheart, your life purpose generator, purpose provoker, your personal life coach, here with another weekly serving and dose of Tuesday Tea with D. And I am a little careful today because my cup is full. I'm just going to show you it's still sitting and steeping. And today's tea is my elderberry fortress herbal tea. I just was in the mood. We had been traveling. And so I'm like, let me just put a little something in here just to maybe fight off the cooties we may have come in contact with. Oh, goodness. I had not tasted this until now. And so you already know it was a surprise for me. I put a little bit of extra lemon and honey in it. And it's doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, goodness. That's good. Honey, it's steeping the way that it's supposed to steep. Okay. So today's conversation is going to be a really good conversation. It may even be a part one and a part two, depending upon how far I get. Today's conversation is, are you too busy to pray? And you probably would say, no, I'm never too busy to pray, but I would beg to differ. And so we're going to have a conversation around that. And really and this conversation is inspired by this book here, Too Busy Not to Pray, Slowing Down to Be with God by Bill Hybels. And I bought this book. So I'm going to tell you how old this book is. This book was written in 1988, and I bought this book, I don't want to say around 1988, but this book, as you can see, it's a little old, and I've read this multiple times. It's got multiple highlights and stuff in it. I've got the Post-it notes. And so we'll talk a little bit about this in a minute. But it was inspired by this book, and I'll tell you why it was inspired and all of that in a little bit. But of course, I want to talk about what this week's Tuesday Tea with D and who it is sponsored by. And this week's Tuesday Tea with D is sponsored by iSpeaklife Live, my 3-day transformational spirit-led experience for high achieving, purpose pursuing women of faith who are ready to unplug, rediscover their dreams, anchor their faith, and reconnect with themselves and God. And so if you find yourself in that space and you're like, I have been pouring out, and I'm going to put the banner up here so that you can get the information to register. But if you have been in a space where you have been pouring out excessively this year, and really maybe just more like it's regular, like you are a pour outer of the people, and you very rarely take time to allow yourself to be refilled, you don't take time to allow yourself to reset and reconnect, then I want to personally invite you to join me December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for iSpeaklife Live. And it's going to be an extremely life-changing event, and not really because I'm hosting it, but because God is going to be in the building. And I believe that God literally knows what you need, and he's going to be there to deliver and give it to you in that way. And what I love about the event is that a lot of times the women who come will say, I really wasn't sure what I needed when I got here. I just knew I needed something. And now that it's over, I got exactly what I needed. And so I want you to be in the room. Like, I feel like there are things in you that have yet to come out. I think that there are some things that have been lying dormant, some dreams that you need to reconnect with. I think that you need to take some time away from all of the roles that you play as wife, mom, executive leader, community leader, impactor of people and generations and all the things, like all of the titles that you carry, caregiver, and just show up for the one person, who for me is the most important at this event, and that's you. Like, I want you to show up for you. We're not, we'll talk about your dreams. We'll talk about why you're not showing up in the way that you need to be showing up, because I know that you're not, right. You're on your A game, but there's another level of you that you have not yet tapped into. And so we're going to talk about that at the event. But the other part is I want to tap into you. I want to tap into, and I want to speak to you, the woman. Right. And so I won't get into all the details because you got to be there, but I will encourage you to go to iSpeaklifelive.com, iSpeaklifelive.com in order to get access to the tickets. I will tell you that VIP, we have 3 spots left for VIP. This is as of September 5th. 2023, depending upon when you are watching this video. And after that, VIP is going to be sold out. And so if you like exclusivity, is that the word? Exclusivity. I think that's the word, right? And I'm not going to edit that out because I feel like we all have a word. We're like, wait a minute, did I say that right or not? But at any rate, if you like exclusive access, can I say it that way? If you like to be able to get all you can get, right? That you can get all you can and can all you can get, then VIP is the space that you want to be in. It's where you get exclusive access to me. You get to get fed. You get early access to the event. You get priority seating at the event. And then there's also VIP gifts that you get that nobody else gets. And so again, there are 3 more spaces left for VIP. And but there's unlimited for general, right? I won't say unlimited, but we still have more than enough spots for you, but you don't want to wait till the last minute either way. We have a full pay and a 4 pay available to you. So with that being said, I wanted to share that now. And so let's get to the crux of what we are here for. And that is, are you too busy to pray? And the reason I asked that question is because as I was reading this book, which is what today's conversation and possibly next week's conversation will be about, is I wanted to go back to really getting quiet and recentering myself to what I know works for me when I need to hear from God, when I need clarity about a specific situation or thing. And I felt like that with everything going on that I had going on in my life, that I really wasn't making the time that I needed to make to spend with God. And so a lot of times when we ask the question, are you too busy to pray? The answer is right. Like, it's like, no. But then the question then goes to when Jesus was talking to the apostles, right? And he says, can you pray but for an hour? And as soon as he walks away, they fall asleep. And so I just wonder, like, when was the last time you prayed for an hour? When was the last time that you spent an hour with God? When was the last time you sat in his presence for an hour? Not here and there, not 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 10 minutes here, like accumulating throughout the day. It might be an hour, but like where you give him your undivided attention. What does that look like? Because a lot of times we'll say, I'm not hearing from God. God is not speaking. I feel like God has me out here. And sometimes, child, he do, right? Sometimes he have us out here looking crazy like Noah, doing things, right? He'll speak a vision, and then it's not until 13 years later that it manifests like Joseph. And so sometimes, yeah, child, he do have us out here. But that I really just believe that when God has us out there, it really is for him to get the glory. And so, a couple of the things that I wanted to share, there were, this was from the chapter, Do You Hear God's Leadings? And it says, there's a question that says, when do you make yourself quiet and available to God? When do you formally invite him to speak to you? Do you build the discipline of solitude right into your schedule? And I think there's another sentence that starts it off. It says, so I'll read this paragraph really quickly. It says, I know that God continues to speak to his people today, and I am convinced that there are 2 reasons we don't hear his voice more often. The most obvious reason is that we don't listen for it. We don't schedule times of stillness to make communication possible. And if you've been with me at any amount of time, you know I'm really big on when's the last time you got quiet? When's the last time you sat with yourself? When's the last time you sat with yourself long enough to be able to tune in so that you could be able to hear God, to recognize his voice, however he speaks to you, right? Because a lot of times people will come and like, oh, I feel like God is not speaking. And I'm like, but are you listening, right? Or they'll say, well, I'm doing this, and this. And I'll say, well, what does God say about that? Like, what is God saying? Oh, I don't know. Right. And so we have not scheduled times of stillness to make communication possible. That's like saying that you want to develop better communication with a specific relationship, whether it's platonic or romantic, but you don't make time for it. And so then there's no real way to enhance communication if there is no time created for the communication to be developed and cultivated. Right. So then it says, be honest with yourself. When do you turn off the TV, the radio, and this is dating the book, the CD player, And listen to nothing louder than the refrigerator's hum. When do you turn off the soundtrack of your mind and come away from the numbers, machines, words, schemes, or whatever it is that occupies your waking thoughts? When you do make yourself quiet, when do you make yourself quiet and available to God? When do you formally invite Him to speak to you? Do you build the discipline of solitude right into your schedule? And so, one of the things, and I'll just say this here, that we talk about and that we deal with at I Speak Life Live, my 3-day transformational event in December, is we look at that. Like, I look at what you're doing with your time. I look at how you're creating time and space for God. We even create space and time for you to get quiet. That's why, one of the very first things that we talk about is for you being able to come and unplug, because it's so hard sometimes in the busyness of life and the busyness of doing all of the things that you do, that you very rarely know it. Like, you're like, quiet time, like, I don't even have that. And sometimes you have to demand it. Sometimes you have to create boundaries for yourself and for your family, not just for the people who are toxic in your life, but the people who you love and who you love spending time with. But you have to say, no, this is my time with myself and God. Like, you're not invited to this party. And it takes time, but we talk about that because you showing up at your highest and your best self, we can't continue to do that and not include God in that. Or when God finally blesses you, you're now too busy for Him. Like, before it happened, you were all like, Lord, when are you going to show up? Lord, how is this going to happen? Lord, I'm listening because I need you. And then when things start to fall into place and we forget, we don't have time. We're now busy, too busy dealing with the blessing, that we don't have time for the one who blessed us. And so, are you too busy to pray? I know, right? Simple question, but I want us to have this conversation because we should be talking to God daily, right? The Bible says pray without ceasing. And so, if the Bible says pray without ceasing, then obviously we're talking to Him throughout the day, right? I know I am. I can be in the car having a conversation with Him. I could be talking to Him right before we go live for Tuesday Tea with D. I could be talking to Him in the morning, at night. Like, I have constant conversation with God. But there are some times where I need to still myself, where I need to pull away from the day, pull away from lifing, pull away from work, and really sit in the silence and the solitude, and stillness, to be able to not only just settle myself, but to settle in God. We talked about that last month in the monthly inner circle training, for my mentorship and my membership community. And I know we talk a lot about settling and compromising, but I just wonder, there's another definition of settling into something. And I just wonder how often you settle yourself in God. You settle yourself in the presence of God. You settle yourself in the stillness of God, not just so He can hear, but so that the peace of God can overtake you sometimes when chaos is trying to take you out. And so, you have to be in a space where you are tuned in, into God's voice, right? And I think, thinking about, and I really want you to, there's so much more in here that I want to share. But I really want you to think about, are you too busy? When's the last time that you gave God an hour of your time uninterrupted? When you watch this, I want you to comment down below. When's the last time you gave Him an hour of uninterrupted time? And I don't want you to feel guilty about it. I don't want there to be any condemnation about it. But I do want you to feel convicted, because I think if we say we love Him and we adore Him and we love being in His presence, but we don't create time for Him, then what does that say? One of the things that I used to teach, and I still talk about it, but I taught in my quiet time training and around learning to spend time so that you can hear from God, is literally like being in a relationship. And so what happens when, as a husband and a wife, or as a parent and a child, where you say you love a person, and what happens if you go days and weeks without talking to each other? What happens if it's just only like, oh, in passing, right? And I know for kids, I've heard, my child is not at that point yet where, communication is limited. Like, they only talk when they want something. Like, he's not there yet. But I've heard that, teenagers, child, like, they come and go. But as our responsibility as parents is to always leave that door of communication open, and even initiate that conversation. But what if? What if this week there was no communication between you and your child, between you and your your husband or your wife, or even your parents, or whomever you are in relationship with, right? The people who you talk to consistently on a daily basis. Like, what happens when y'all don't talk at all? First of all, there is a leak and a crack. There is a missing piece when all of a sudden you feel distant from one another. And I would imagine that in some relationships, that's how divorce happens, because there's a breakdown of communication. And so if you are not talking to somebody, just imagine the person you care about and you talk to just about every day just stops talking to you, or only talks to you when they feel like they want to talk to you, or only feel like they want something. You start to feel some kind of way. The gracious thing about God is he does not feel that way about us. But I want you to imagine what happens when you become so busy that you don't pray, that you become so busy that you don't make time for him, that you become so busy that it's only when you can fit him in, as opposed to making him a priority. And you are now enjoying the fruit of all of the things, the seeds that you've sown. He's blessed you. You're reaping the harvest, but you forgot to be able to maintain the level of communication with the person who blessed you. What happens? And so I want you to think about that. And I think I'm going to come back next week and talk about ways that you can find time to pray, right? When you're busy, because I think you have to first answer the question, when's the last time you spent an hour with God uninterrupted? And are you too busy to pray? Like, is your schedule in your life so busy that you don't have time? And so I would encourage you. I'm going to pause here because I feel like this is enough. And I feel like you need to journal, right? And I feel like in addition to next week's conversation around what that looks like, I want you to look at, for the next 7 days, where you can fit him in for an hour, not 15 minutes. Because I feel like if we can make time for everything else, and this is for me as well, if we can make time for everything else, and we can make time for God. If you can make time to go to him and ask him for what you need, and be on your knees and talking to him about all the things, but you're not just spending time with him. And so I want you to do that this week. I want you to figure out what that looks like every single day. And I'd love for you to come and share in the comments, DM me, whatever the case may be. But we have to get to the point where we stop being too busy to pray, stop being too busy to spend time with God, stop being too busy to study his word, stop being too busy to get to know him. We say we don't know him. We say we want to get to know him. We say we want to grow in a deeper relationship with him, yet we don't pray. We don't read our Bibles. We don't study our Bibles. We are not intentional about any of those things. And I want you to be intentional about this God that you say you love and adore, that you pray to about all of these things that you want. But outside of all of the things that you want, how about you wanting more of him, wanting more of his presence, more of his glory, more of his essence, more of his peace, more of his joy, his love, like spending time with him, so that the fruit of the Spirit are things that people are able to experience in you because of how you spend time with him. Right? So with that being said, I hope today's conversation was a good conversation, simply because, like I said, in reading this book, and I have a few books that I read multiple times, and I've read this a lot. Like, you can see all of the pages, and some of them are in different colors, simply because depending upon the season that I was in, I was highlighting in a different color. But it's important, even for me, to get to a point where I'm like, okay, I feel like everything else is a little bit more important. And it was important to kind of go back to this book to really ask the question, like, am I too busy to pray? Like, what's going on here that I'm not in a season of praying consistently? And if you know me, child, you know I pray. I don't have any issues praying. But that was feeling a little stuck. I was feeling a little stagnant. I was feeling a little dull. And so I needed to sharpen my saw. I needed to be able to go back and just get a refresher and a reminder. And it did what it needed to do. And so I wanted to share that with you, because I always know that with my community, if it's something that I'm feeling, if it's something that I'm feeling, something that I'm sensing, then I know that you're feeling it and sensing it as well. And you might need that nudge as well. So with that being said, make sure you thumbs up this video, like the video, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure you comment below. I want to know, like, when's the last time you prayed for an hour? Are you too busy to pray? Like, what did today's message say to you? How did it speak to you? I want to know in the comments, right? And the other thing that I've been saying for the past couple of weeks is I want you to share this with 5 people, right? Take the link, text it to them, and say, hey, like, this really spoke to me. I think that you would enjoy it, and send it to them. And then tell them, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because she got juicy nuggets that she's sharing every single week via Tuesday Tea with D. Okay. So with that being said, also make sure that you register for iSpeaklife Live. I'll put this down below so that you can see it, because I want to see your face in the place. There are limited seats, right? And so we don't have a whole Coliseum yet, and 3 VIP spots left. And so I definitely want you to be in the play, your face in the place as well. So if you want that exclusivity, I got the word right, listen, and you want that limited access, right? Again, out of the numbers of women who are going to be there, let me just say we're already at close to, I think, like 30 women who have registered. And we have 3 VIP spots left, right? And so if you want to be in that number, then don't wait, right? Even if you're not ready to do, if you're not sure, right? I would say be sure about it, right? Go in and just pay for it, right? You've got 2 payment options. You've got a 1 pay and you've got a 4 pay. Like like it's a no-brainer, right? And the 4 pay is probably going to end at the end of the month. So either general or VIP 4 pay is not going to be available after September 30th. And so if you want to take advantage of the 4 pay, then I want to encourage you to do that, right? So one of the things that I also will say is I appreciate you being here with me and watching Tuesday Tea with D, sharing Tuesday Tea with D, subscribing to my YouTube channel, and being a part of my community. And so my prayer is that you would have an amazing week. My prayer is that you would slow down to spend some time with God this week, and that you would do what I'm asking you to do, right? The questions that I asked, the conversation that I'm having with you, these are questions and conversations that I have with private clients. And so I'm not asking you to do anything that I don't do, but also that I don't do in the work that I do. This right here is work that I do. And if you haven't noticed, doesn't mean anything for me to tell you to do a thing and you not do it. And so the onus, now the ball is in your court to do the work, right? Do the work. So with that being said, I am off and I'm going to enjoy this tea. And because honey, wait, child, whatever I did, that tea right there is good. Woo! But that's neither here nor there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for thumbs upping. Thank you for being a part of the community. And I will see you next time on Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D.